That's that. Ultimately, the attempt to use Percy as a proxy failed. Recognizing the gravity of the request, Percy refused to participate in the violent plot and instead preserved the audio recordings of the conversations with the defendant, Torres, and that's with Pistol Pete and Rich the Kid. That's their last names. These recordings now serve as direct and damning evidence of the enterprise level of retaliation. They confirm that the defendants, Fat Joe, Pistol Pete, Rich the Player, conspired to harm the plaintiff and did so with deliberation, hierarchy, and coordination. Hallmarks of an ongoing criminal enterprise operating with the structure and continuity required to establish liability under the Racketeering Influence and Corrupt Organization Act, other known as RICO. Defendants use a burner phone ending in 1330 to facilitate exploitation and trafficking. Throughout the plaintiff's 16-year involvement with the defendant, Cartagena, he observed that the defendant maintained a separate burner phone ending in 1330, which was used exclusively for private and off-record communications. Unlike defendant Cartagena's public or business phones, this device was deliberately kept isolated, consistent with counter surveillance behavior intended to evade law enforcement detection and maintain secrecy over illicit enterprise activity. The plaintiff personally witnessed the defendant Cartagena use his burner phone to communicate with underage girls, particularly during late night hours or in days leading up to out-of-town travel. These communications frequently occurred while the defendant Cartagena was in hotel rooms, tour buses, or other private locations. Based on the plaintiff's direct observation, as well as the defendant Cartagena's remarks, this phone was routinely used to coordinate clandestine meetings, reserve hotel accommodations, and manage travel logistics associated with sexual encounters, often involving vulnerable individuals, some who TA knew or reasonably believed to be minors. Upon information and belief, defendant Cartagena also used the burner phone to coordinate additional criminal activity, including the movement of firearms and narcotics, and to communicate with enterprise enforcers and drug distributors in the Bronx and Miami. Oh my God. Fat Joe ass might be grass. That nigga ass is new moon grass. This burner phone served as a critical operational tool for avoiding detection, preventing GPS traction, and evading subpoenas and wiretaps. Defendant Cartagena used the device to maintain a closed loop of communication with trusted criminal associates, shielding themselves from accountability. The use of the encrypted disposal or compartmentalized communication methods, such as burner phones, is a known tactic employed by organized criminal operations and further illustrates the sophistication of the Cartagena enterprise structure. The operational strategy reinforces the existence of a functional criminal enterprise engaging in trafficking, obstruction, and racketeering activities. Although the burner phone has not yet been recovered, the plaintiff expects that a forensic review of the defendant's Cartagena's telecommunications records and subpoenaed data will uncover direct evidence of trafficking-related conversations, threats, witness intimidation, and coordination of predicate criminal acts, including sex trafficking, narcotics distribution, and criminal conspiracy. The Cartagena or Cartagena enterprise enforcement by violence, threat, and code cafe ketchup incident, Sing Sing prison, and blood. Defendant Cartagena routinely directed violent retaliations against those who defied or disrespected him. These orders were often issued through coded phrases such as "give him ketchup," a euphemism for stabbing or slashing. This language functioned as internal shorthand used by members of the terror squad and Cartagena enterprise to conceal violent intentions while maintaining a shared understanding of expected action. I'm glad this nigga Gene told me about this threat on YouTube. I'm glad this nigga said it publicly several times on YouTube and I got it. I'm glad. Keep running your mouth, Gene Squill. You just help these niggas to get in more trouble. You are stupid. You are out, and I hope they subpoena your ass. I hope they subpoena your ass, nigga. Because they got you on YouTube sending threats to me from these niggas. You are stupid, nigga. You gonna get pulled right into this shit. The term cafe ketchup derives from an incident in which JB, a member of the enterprise, instigated a confrontation outside of a restaurant. After losing the altercation, he contacted the defendant Fat Joe, which resulted in a retaliation stabbing allegedly orchestrated by the enterprise to restore its dominance and punish the perceived disrespect. In a separate incident, the defendant orchestrated an act of violence that ultimately led to another individual taking responsibility on his behalf, serving a lengthy sentence in Sing Sing Correctional Facility. The cover-up was coordinated through the enterprise hierarchy and designed to insinuate the defendant from legal exposure while reinforcing internal loyalty. Assault on Latin rap artists after perceived online disrespect. Defendant Fat Joe has historically responded to public criticism with violence, particularly within the music industry. According to the plaintiff, one such retaliatory act may have involved a Latin rapper known as Redacted, who made disparaging statements about defendant Fat Joe online. Although the plaintiff did not witness the attack or is planning, as he did with other acts of violence orchestrated by defendant Cartagena, he believes. I'm just keep saying Fat Joe because that's who the hell he is. The defendant Fat Joe's airy remark following the incident told him everything he needed to know concerning the enterprise involvement. Defendant Fat Joe remarked to the plaintiff, "When niggas go against the Don, you see what happens. God don't like ugly." This statement, said with pride and satisfaction, made clear that the defendant, Fat Joe, viewed violent enforcement as both justified and strategically necessary to preserve his authority. Fat Joe's directive to assault rapper Mack Maine. Oh, shit. Fat Joe's use of physical violence extended beyond retaliation. He also used to he also used it to assert dominance over rival entertainers and enforce personal vendettas. TA recalls one such incident in which Fat Joe ordered him to physically assault rapper Mack Maine, Jermaine Anthony Prayan, a well-known artist affiliated with the Young Money label. Fat Joe instructed TA and other members of the Terror Squad to pound out Mack Maine on sight. It did not matter the time or place. If they saw him, they must attack him. This was in response to a comment allegedly made by Mack Maine in which he mocked Fat Joe's marriage and claimed he could sexually satisfy Fat Joe's wife better than Fat Joe could. According to TA, Fat Joe told him that Mack Maine crossed the line when he said, "I know that fat nigga ain't fucking his wife right. I'll fuck the shit out of her if I get a chance." Although TA did not carry out the assault, the directive itself reflects that Fat Joe's operational practice of issuing verbal orders intended to result in violence. Orders that were understood to be mandatory within the empire. You know, Mack Maine, like, what right now? Somebody calling Mack Maine right now. Yo, these orders were not hyperbolic or performative within the Cartagena enterprise. Coded phrases like pound them out carry real weight and imply expectation of execution. Non-compliance could be interpreted as disloyalty, leading to an eternal punishment or exclusion. And that's in the goddamn phone call, recorded phone call with Pistol Pete to Percy. Yo, these niggas got a case, bro. If Diddy got a case from Cassie lawsuit, bro. Oh my God. Yo, all this nigga Fat Joe had to do was get his boy his bread or whatever. Like, bro, man, you open the door to possibly life in jail, bro. Over a few dollars. Yeah. This nigga really think like he took that Fat Joe gangster shit to his head, allegedly. Like, and then he out here telling all these stories. Pistol Pete out here telling all these stories. Like, it's gonna be hard for them to that nigga, he better get a real good lawyer. I'm telling you. He better get a real good lawyer, boy. Because I guarantee you, knock on wood, this is getting ready to go criminal. This is getting ready to go criminal. Yo, he should have just got ahead and settled with this nigga. We see what happens. Yo. The Mack Maine directive, like others, reinforces that the defendant Cartagena used violence not merely to resolve disputes, but to preserve his reputation. Silence dissent and demonstrates unchallenged dominance in both his personal and professional networks. And you got dumb niggas like Gene sitting there, get on the goddamn internet. Yo, if Fat Joe, I'm calling this nigga Gene right now. Yo, why the hell did you tell this nigga Choke that we was after him? Why did you tell this nigga on YouTube that nigga they had a bag on his head? What is wrong with you, Gene? Like, yo, I know these niggas is calling, like, yo, bro. With all this, like, yo, bro. These niggas is the police. These niggas is the police. Getting right on YouTube and saying some shit like that, not knowing this shit is in the chamber. Watch how Gene try to retract this shit. Nigga, I got that. Like, you ain't gonna be able to retract that one, nigga. Oh my God, Gene. This ain't helping they shit. These actions constitute a criminal solicitation to commit assault and are chargeable under the following: New York penal law, criminal solicitation; Florida statutes, criminal attempt and solicitation, depending on the jurisdiction where the planned assault was to occur. Defendant Cartagena sustained and deliberate use of coded threats, surrogate violence, and retaliatory directive proves further evidence and an organized criminal enterprise operating with the structure, continuity, and the intent to engage in unlawful acts to preserve its power. Defendant Cartagena's use of a burner phone ending in 1330. Throughout his working relationship in defendant Cartagena, plaintiff TA personally observed Fat Joe's routine use of a burner phone ending in 1330, which was used exclusively for communications Fat Joe wished to keep off the record and disconnected from his public or business telecommunications. Defendant utilized this burner phone to secretly communicate with underage girls and other impressionable individuals, mainly of whom were transported across state lines to accompany him on tour, attended private events, or engage in sexual acts. 2, coordinate with sex traffickers and enforcers, specifically including the defendants Pistol Pete, Rich the Player, to facilitate the grooming, movement, and exploitation of victims, relay sensitive enterprise directives, including instructions concerning violence, retaliation, and concealment of illicit activity. Defendant Cartagena regularly replaced the burner phone every few months. The phone was used only for high-risk, enterprise-related conversations and was concealed during the public appearances. Knowledge of its existence was limited to Fat Joe's inner circle, reinforcing his role as a covert tool for coordinating criminal activity. The deliberate use of burner phones for trafficking-related communication is a known operational tactic among organized criminal enterprises. It enables compartmentalization, evasive of wiretap surveillance, and insulation of leadership figures from the direct accountability for trafficking and violence. Subpoenaed telecommunication records and metadata associated with the 1330 number are expected to confirm patterns of use that align with the defendant's event schedule, travel itineraries, hotel reservations, and contact with known enforcers and victims. These records are anticipated to establish a direct evidentiary link between the defendant, Cartagena, and the orchestration of sex trafficking, enterprise violence, and obstruction of justice.